Now, after going through that lengthy explanation, I'm going to talk about another way that I actually recommend for most surveyors who are not extremely versed in CAD itself. That is to pick another option, and that is to make the main layer something else. I'm going to pick my points dash monuments. So the point block is going to go on that. I'm going to put this separate attribute layers back to none. The attribute format, though, however, I am going to change to both. And just to demonstrate this, I'm going to make the attribute size a little bit smaller. I'm going to create a point group called monuments. So you can create point groups right from your code table. So all of these are capable of doing that. So you can get point groups. I don't have a lot of point groups, but control points and monuments is definitely one of them. I think I have control points, monuments, trees, and sewer and drain features. So now the symbol, you can see that this symbol is on the same layer, and it's overlaid right on the point. I can change that symbol to go out to a different layer, which is fine. But another really cool option is to use a second symbol. And the second symbol then overlays on your point and is not actually, it's not really associated as part of the point. It's a smart symbol. It knows that it belongs to that point number, but it's not part of the point. What I'm getting around to is if you use a second symbol, and I'll actually set this one to just a SPT0, which is nothing but a dot. The second symbol is still going to come on the same layer, but it's well, let me just go that far with it. So here's the symbol that's actually not part of that point. If I double click on that symbol, I don't get point information. It's just a block. Now, the advantage to this is twofold. The main one being if someone was to move, if I have everything thawed here, see, I still have my point there. Oh, I've got my point number on to get rid of that. But if this point and this description are actually connected to the point, so the risk is if somebody moves that, they've moved the point attributes off of the block itself. They still haven't moved the actual point because that's connected to the node. If I move that node, however, I'm going to get an error message that I've moving a point in the coordinate file. So the reason why I like this is it's a safe option to have this just a simple piece of text. So that's all that is now, is a simple piece of text. I'll get rid of that point number as text. I don't really care about that. And then I could actually, not only can I just freeze the monuments layer and I still have all this left over, I could actually erase it out of the drawing and I still have all the critical information for the plan itself. So let's just go back into here real quick and take a look at that. So if I put the attribute format on both, because I still want my point number in the drawing, but I also want the piece of text, so that's what that means, text attribute. You control the text here. So there's my point number. I really don't want the point number. I really don't want the elevation on. I just want the description. I can actually, what about to the lower right? That's the position. This is the layer. You can control what text is going, layer it's going to be on, what type of text and font it's going to be on, and then there's a description. And I have an option here to create as mtext, which I particularly like because I like mtext. And I'm not going to worry about these layers or anything like that. These are offsets from how far off the point the piece of text is going to be. From experience, I've found that a 0.3 works really nicely on all of those. And then this notes and GIS attributes, there's a whole ton you can do with this. But if it's set to all, any notes that you add to your points will come out in your drawing as a piece of text. So let's say, let's turn these back on. If, how do I get two of them in there? Yeah. So if I were to add, if you have a special code of being able to add a prefix and a suffix, and it is a slash, forward slash, or a backslash. So a forward slash is going to be an appendix by default. Now this is, you can modify those as to a different character as well. A backslash will be a prefix. So I could say 3-inch. That will now say iron pipe found. So it says iron pipe, it's going to put the 3 inches in front of that. So I'm going to add a space. You can also add notes. So if I add something like leaning 1 foot northeast, when I process this, I get M text with all that information in there. Iron pipe found leaning 1 foot northeast. It's smart. It knows that that text belongs to that point. So if I use my move text with leader command, which I use all the time, it flags out a leader on the plan. If I don't like where that looks, I can just execute the command again. So this saves a lot of annotating. So you don't want to add annotations to your drawing when the Carlson will do it for you. I've got not enough time again here. I'm going to run through one other thing here. You can actually add formulas to this. I actually have a video on Carlson Academy that shows you how to do that, but I have this set up to where you can add using those same notes, you can add measure downs from a rim and it will calculate the invert elevations for you and label on the plan with the same way as text. And the trees, I promised I was going to get to the trees, so I'm going to do one real quick. I know we're running over. I always do this. There's so much to field to finish. It's really hard to cover. But just to show you quickly, if I go to an oak tree, I'm going to change that code. Yeah, I'll go ahead and use oak. But the feature type, the main thing you do is you change it from a topo to a tree. And then you control that by your tree setup here on what you want to do with that tree. So if I go in here and add oak tree, I need to add a symbol here. And we have a tree category, and I'll just grab that for an oak tree. And then you control it here. And there's just a lot you can do here including drawing tree tables. And you can draw in the trunk diameter based upon the actual diameter. So it'll draw a circle or a solid at that at the actual diameter, not scaled. You can draw it by the factor of the trunk diameter. So I'm going to leave that there for now. But there's all these options here you can do. And then what I'm going to do is edit my oak tree code. It's right here. I had said 30-inch oak. So it's actually would be coded oak 30 the way I had just had that up. And when I'm going so fast, we'll see what I get. So I got, yeah, the point blocks on the same layer. So I actually have the tree symbol drawn, scaled times the a factor of the trunk size, and it drops in a piece of text which labels it the 30-inch. And so that's all controlled under the tree setup. And I have a video on that as well. So I'm afraid I better stop talking because it's 3 minutes after. Barring, but I will hang out for questions if anybody has some.
All right, Doug. Well, we don't have any questions at the moment, but I'll give you a couple seconds to put in any questions you might have. I'll read my little wrap-up speech in the meantime. Why not? Which is mainly just letting you know that you'll get your recording about 2 hours from now. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar. The next webinar in this series will be next Wednesday, which is Getting Started with Carlson. Jim Reinbold is hosting that webinar. We have a whole bunch more webinars that I'm just adding into the system now. Just got to put in descriptions, and they'll be on our website. The link to that will also be in that email with your recording. And we have one question. Can you just remind us again quickly where the curb template was located?
Okay, you're going to save that wherever you feel like saving it. I actually save it under line type template right here. And you're going to store it. I don't store it in some odd place here. I usually keep it under the Carlson project settings. But you can store it on any place you want. You obviously want to share that with everybody else in the office. So under Carlson project settings is kind of not a bad place. If you can see, actually you can see those are mine in the ones that we use. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 templates that I use. So that's yeah, but you can store them anywhere you want, but to set that, it's under line type template.
All right, we have one more question, Doug. Does it matter if both 2D and 3D lines are on when you do the counter lines?
The counter lines.
It's actually spelled C-O-U-N-T-O-R, perhaps.
Contour.
It's supposed to be
Yes.
contours. There we go.
Yes, that's good. Because so the 3D lines are your break lines. You want those thawed. One cool thing with 2023 here, or 2022, that's what we're on. Field to finish now, you can actually click on triangulate and contour right here. Create a template, a tin, and hit OK. When it processes it, it actually grabs and creates the contours right from field to finish now. But the reason why it grabs those as 3D polylines, the short answer is yes, the 3D polylines need to be on when you do triangulate and contour, because that's what Carlson sees as a break line.
All right, Doug. I think that is it, except for some thank yous.
All right. Well, thanks. Sorry I went so fast. I think we need another one of these with even more advanced. There's I honestly have taught this for a full day, starting from the basics to the end, which is a little bit too much for someone to have to listen to me talk. But there's a lot you can do with this program. And just one last thing for those who are still there, because I see 37 folks that is stuck with it. Under Carlson Community, if you go in here, File Carlson Community, I actually have uploaded a code table, 2 code tables that if you're starting out with, come on, code table. They're right here, CSW dash ATT and TXT. Those are pretty good starting code tables, in my opinion. They are set up the way I showed you here. The difference between ATT is setting up to use your descriptions as attributes and TXT as text. Again, I have found from experience that if you have, somewhat beginning or novice or not incredibly, people who don't really care about sitting there and dealing a lot with AutoCAD or CAD in general, this TXT using text makes it really, really easy to draft with. But you can download these; they're free. I was checking to see, like, look at that. There's been 19 downloads now, so I'm pleased to see that. So help yourself to that. It's not a bad way to get started.